Section 12. We're under contract. Earnest money, escrow, and the title company. When we left Ashley in Section 9, Daniel received the call they had been waiting for. After an offer, a counteroffer, another negotiation, and a conversation with Rachel about the financing implications, the parties reached an agreement. Ashley screamed, "I bought a house." Daniel smiled and corrected her gently. "You have a house under contract. Now the real work begins." That may not sound as exciting, but every experienced Arizona agent knows exactly what Daniel means. The moment a contract becomes effective, the transaction changes. Deadlines begin to matter. Earnest money must be addressed. Escrow needs to open. Title work begins. Inspections are coming. Financing continues. Disclosures need attention. The agent who was moving quickly to get the buyer into the contract now needs to become extremely organized to get the buyer successfully through the contract. Ashley's first question comes the next morning. "Daniel, what exactly happens to my earnest money?" That's a great question because buyers sometimes misunderstand what earnest money represents. Earnest money is generally a deposit made in connection with the buyer's contractual commitment to the transaction. The amount, timing, method of delivery, and disposition are governed by the purchase contract and applicable law. Daniel explains that earnest money isn't simply a random fee paid to the seller for accepting the offer. In a typical transaction using the Arizona Realtors Residential Resale Real Estate Purchase Contract, the contract identifies the earnest money amount and provides instructions regarding delivery to the escrow company. Ashley asks, "Can I just give you the money and you hold on to it?" Here's where Daniel needs to know both the contract and brokerage procedures. Arizona has specific requirements governing trust funds and the handling of money belonging to others. AAC R428802 and ARS Section 32-2151 address important responsibilities concerning funds received in real estate transactions. Daniel should never casually place a buyer's money in a desk drawer, hold a check indefinitely, or decide on his own where funds belong. He follows the contract, his brokerage procedures, and applicable law. Michael has another broker rule for Daniel. Earnest money is not something you get to later. If the contract requires delivery within a particular period, Daniel should immediately explain that requirement to Ashley and monitor it. Here's where many agents get into trouble. Everyone celebrates the accepted contract on Friday evening, nobody discusses earnest money, Monday becomes busy, and suddenly someone realizes the deposit hasn't been delivered as required. A missed contractual obligation can create unnecessary risk and potentially lead to a cure issue depending on the circumstances and contract. Daniel sends the fully executed contract to the appropriate parties, and escrow is opened with Maria, the escrow officer. Ashley asks, "So does Maria work for the seller?" Daniel explains that the escrow function is different from the advocacy role Daniel performs for Ashley. An escrow agent acts as a neutral stakeholder and performs duties according to the escrow instructions and applicable requirements. Maria is not Ashley's buyer's agent and isn't the seller's listing agent. She coordinates the escrow process, receives documents and funds, assists with settlement-related requirements, and ultimately helps move the transaction toward closing when the necessary conditions have been satisfied. Then, Ashley asks the next logical question. What's the difference between escrow and title? Buyers often hear the words together, title and escrow, and assume they're exactly the same function. Daniel explains that escrow generally involves the neutral handling of documents, instructions, and funds associated with completing the transaction, while the title side examines matters affecting ownership and provides title insurance according to the applicable policy and commitment. In Arizona, the same company may provide both services in a transaction, which is why buyers often think of them as one operation. But the functions are distinct. Maria contacts Ashley with wiring instructions. Daniel immediately gives Ashley one of the most important warnings she will receive during the transaction. Wire fraud is real. Criminals may impersonate real estate agents, title companies, lenders, or escrow officers and send fraudulent instructions, directing buyers to transfer money into criminal accounts. Ashley should independently verify wiring instructions through a trusted method using verified contact information before sending funds. If she receives an unexpected email claiming that wiring instructions have changed, she should stop and verify rather than simply following the message. Imagine Ashley receives an email that looks almost identical to Maria's normal email address. It says, "We've changed banks. Please wire your funds to this new account immediately." Ashley forwards it to Daniel and asks, "Is this legitimate?" Daniel doesn't reply, "Looks good to me." He tells Ashley not to send anything until the instructions are independently verified with the escrow company through a known, trusted contact method. One careless click can turn a successful real estate transaction into a financial disaster. Ashley then asks whether Daniel chose the title company because he received something for sending business there. Daniel explains that settlement service referrals raise important RESPA considerations. Real estate professionals should not receive prohibited kickbacks or things of value in exchange for settlement service referrals. Recommendations should be based on legitimate professional considerations, and buyers should understand their rights concerning service provider selection when applicable. Within a short period, Maria confirms that escrow is open, and Ashley's earnest money has been received according to the transaction requirements. Daniel updates his file and calendar. The transaction now has a rhythm: deadlines, documents, communications, and verification. Ashley relaxes for approximately 30 seconds. Then Maria says, "We'll be sending the title commitment when it's ready." Ashley turns to Daniel. "What's a title commitment?" Daniel smiles. Another part of the journey has arrived. Finding the house answered the question, "What do I want to buy?" Title is going to help Ashley investigate a different question: what exactly am I taking ownership of, and what may affect that ownership? That's where we're headed next. Online discussion. 1. Why should Daniel discuss the earnest money deadline with Ashley immediately after contract acceptance? Answer. Earnest money delivery is a contractual obligation governed by the terms of the purchase agreement. Daniel should help Ashley understand the required amount, delivery method, recipient, and deadline, and monitor the transaction to reduce the risk of an avoidable breach or cure issue. Treating earnest money as an administrative detail that can be handled whenever convenient may expose the buyer to unnecessary contractual risk. 2. Ashley receives an email stating that the escrow company's wiring instructions have changed. What should Daniel advise her to do? Answer. Ashley should not rely solely on the email or immediately transfer funds. She should independently verify the instructions with the escrow company using previously verified contact information or another trusted method. Real estate wire fraud frequently involves impersonation and altered wiring instructions. So, unexpected changes should be treated cautiously and verified before funds are sent. 3. What is the basic difference between title and escrow in an Arizona residential transaction? Answer. Escrow generally serves as a neutral process for handling transaction instructions, documents, and funds necessary to complete the closing. The title function examines ownership and matters affecting title, and facilitates issuance of title insurance according to the applicable commitment and policy. The same company may provide both services, but the functions are different.